Hey YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? Kind of might have a little bit of experiment here. Well, I'm pretty sure until somebody watches this at YouTube, probably in a year or two, maybe earlier, then this video might be deleted, might not. But it's kind of an experiment of sorts because I'm actually curious if YouTube will take down this video because of what I'll be talking about. It doesn't violate any of their policies, apparently, as you'll see. It's just my thoughts about stuff. And if I'm correct, if YouTube takes down this video, it'll confirm for me 100% what I've been hearing through the grapevine about censorship of conspiracy theories and conservative viewpoints and that sort of thing on YouTube. Now, you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with Alex Jones. As it stands, my thoughts about the man have changed a little bit. I was confused a while back when he was such a bully to the Young Turks. Now, a lot of people have also said a lot of bad things about Cenk Uyghur, I think it was. And I don't know. I could never really find the stuff to back that up. This was quite some time ago when I was watching some of the stuff. That Cenk was in reality very, I don't know. It's beside the point. Anyway. So, but you know, the Young Turks are supposedly left-leaning. I always thought seemed kind of moderate to me. So Alex Jones comes in there, their little show, and he kind of interrupts it, and it kind of gives everybody a bad time. And I also still remember the time when we had this kind of rally somewhere in Texas, and Alex Jones just kind of shouts them all down and is a bully to them. Well, you know, and then there's all the, you know, everybody knows about his persona, I guess. But the thing about Alex Jones is, this is what I wanted to mention in particular. So, as he mentioned on a show recently, believe him or not, you could also disbelieve him if you want to, but I have no reason not to believe him when he mentioned this. That when he got big enough in journalism, or broadcasting or whatever, when his name got big enough in Texas and stuff, he said there were some people that said, "Yeah, you're kind of in the club now. You know, we will totally be on your side." And they're kind of being buddies with him, and they probably supported him financially, or they helped him get bigger markets and that sort of thing, I imagine. And but yeah, Alex was talking about how, amongst many other situations where he started to get really, really increasingly suspicious of these guys, at one time they tried to go for his crotch, like actually try to grab his crotch. And yeah, as you could probably guess, it didn't go over so well. And guess who else has that happened to them? Yeah, Terry Crews. It's right there on YouTube. Terry Crews talking about Hollywood trying to grab his crotch and stuff. You might think, oh, it's just disgusting. Why would they? Well, and why would they do that? Well, they basically explain why they do that. It's like some kind of way of dominating someone psychologically. The mafia. It was stories of the mafia doing that when they wanted people to obey them, or get in line, or stay in line, be subservient, right? Because if someone's got you by the balls, so to speak, it's like, yeah, it's a very not pleasant situation. You're gonna have to do whatever they want you to do. And and then so Alex is just like kind of like screw you guys. So it makes a lot of sense. I watched his videos when I was a bit younger about the Bohemian Grove and a whole bunch of other stuff. Some of my relatives kept watching him, where I became suspicious of him because I began to believe that Alex Jones was some kind of double agent. When in reality, what was happening was, yeah, he was being funded by some of these guys, and he was, I guess, part of the club, so to speak, which is why he was able to get into Bohemian Grove probably in the first place. But he just didn't go along with everything they wanted him to go along with, which is why he was booted off a lot of social platforms, by the way. He wouldn't comply with what, yeah, the Illuminati wanted him to comply with. And he's always been a cantankerous guy, so to speak, where he's always been kind of loudmouthed and that way. So I'm not defending any of that. I'm just saying that there's a side to Alex Jones that's just that way. And then there's another side to him that's actually for real. And I for the longest time thought he was just a fake guy because I believed that he was a double agent, or I believed that, train of thought about him, that he was just distracting all the folks that are patriotic and conservative or whatever, or even if they're not conservative, just all the patriotic Americans that just want things that are good things, anti-Illuminati, and he was distracting them, and he was causing them to divert their attention from what was really going on and stuff, and I don't really believe that anymore. Although I still do believe that he has not the most pleasant personality in the world, and he can still be somewhat of a bully. He's still a decent guy in some respects. You can say what you want to about his marriage and all that stuff. I don't know. So let's talk about some conspiracy theory stuff here. And again, I'm telling you guys, it could be tomorrow, it could be a year from now. If this video gets deleted, we'll all know why. It should all be very apparent what's going on. And here I am just mentioning Alex Jones's life so far, touching on the Illuminati a little bit. Well, as you can probably guess, I've heard of the following. And I mentioned this a little bit before in some other videos, perhaps, but I've had conversations with my grandpa. I've had conversations with all sorts of folks about the following. I'm gonna go through them really quick because there's a whole bunch of them. The idea of a chip being planted in our hands or somewhere like that it's kind of like the mark of the beast, so to speak. And so some way of government or other people identifying who we are and all of our personal information on that chip and stuff. I've heard that stuff. I heard of that the colored dot on mailboxes to just identify somebody as being of a certain political persuasion or something like that. Somebody the government considers dangerous or not, depending on the color. I've heard of all kinds of things about the JFK assassination. Of course, I've heard about all the stuff that Bill Cooper has mentioned, and John Todd. The last name was Todd, and then of course fair amount of stuff about the upper 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemasons, and more in particular the connection with those guys that are more like in Washington D.C. and the Illuminati. I've seen the Skull and Bones movies, at least the first few of them. And I've seen the interviews where both HW and W basically incriminate themselves, but not directly, but you see moments where they kind of reveal their true characters, I suppose you could say. As well as Clinton, right? Yep. I've seen the photos of Ronald Reagan, in fact, at the Bohemian Grove with Richard Nixon. Not that even the Republicans are completely innocent there, but it's always a question of what he's actually doing or what they're actually doing rather than just them being there. I don't believe I don't believe, folks, that everybody that goes to Bohemian Grove is evil. Not far from it. I just believe that there are some there that are evil. In fact, maybe even the majority. But I mean, Nixon himself, say what you want about his character in some respects, he abhorred the fact that Bohemian Grove was so sexually twisted and homosexual, that sort of thing. He used some really not too graphic of language to describe that, but so this is just okay, I keep going here. I've heard of the Council on Foreign Relations. I've heard of David Rockefeller, and the Rockefeller oil and all that stuff, and the Rothschilds and the DuPonts and the Jesuit order, even the Catholic Church, the Black Pope, and does not bring me any joy to mention this, but other connections with the Catholic Church and the Illuminati that I want to believe are just, I don't know. I don't want to believe any of that in a way, because anyway, but I've heard of the World Trade sorry, the World Trade Commission. Is it? Anyway, something like that. The stuff that everybody's protesting in Seattle back in the 90s. And the oppression of third world nations, that sort of thing. I've heard of when the Illuminati was the modern Illuminati was founded, more or less, in the United States, or the date of Woodrow Wilson, the 1918 thing. I've heard of the various thoughts about the actual nature of the United States itself, the design of Washington, D.C., the Masonic elements and all that stuff. I've heard of the erroneous beliefs that my church is connected with the 33rd degree Scottish Free Rite Masons, but that's familiar to me as well. Joseph Smith and all that stuff. But it's different than a lot of people realize. Any connections there? It's not what vast majority of people might think. It really is not. How can I put this? Just to lay this to rest. If you have very civic-minded individuals that are Mormon, they'll often be perceived as being men of power. Thinking men because Masons are kind of about the guys, right? As far as I know, but they'll be seen as men of power and influence, and so the Masons like, hey, at least the more corrupt of them. And the Masons have a lot of interesting things about them, so that's why a lot of people were Masons, and still are Masons that are Mormon, if that makes sense. So the Mormons going into that whole society, they don't want to have anything to do with anything dark that goes on there. And the Masons are historically connected with, directly connected with the knights that went over to battle the Saracens or the whatever in the Crusades in Israel. So that's where they got all that information, was from going through the different temples in Jerusalem, reporting all that stuff. They took it back to Europe, England and stuff, and that's to get the Masons. So that's a connection. And you guys can look into all that if you want to. But then I've heard of things like, there's all the stuff about the connection between grays or gray aliens and demons, which is a little different kind of deal. David Icke's thoughts about the Queen of England and reptilians and the royalty in Europe in general being connected to the Illuminati, and how they shapeshift into, we'll just say demons. And then the eating of babies with the royalty in Europe and drinking their blood and stuff, and also connected with the Pope and the Catholic Church. Again, it's not very pleasant. Whether or not you love the Queen of England, the nobility in Europe, or the Catholic Church, those conspiracy theories continue. I've also, I mentioned the Skull and Bones. I have also heard of the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission. I mentioned the Council of Foreign Relations, the Bilderberger Group. I also connections with the CIA and the Illuminati, of course. This is where you get a lot of connections with George H.W. Bush. Um, I've heard of, again, there's the conspiracy theories involving landing on the moon. Stanley Kubrick, I mentioned that in another video in the past. Um, and then also everything that, so you see Masonic handshakes all the time with leaders of the world. You see it from Putin to I don't care who. They're always doing it because they're all men of power and influence. And the Masons want people of power and influence to be in their group. So then the Masons are connected with the Illuminati that way. Yes, at least the Washington, D.C. folks that are 33rd degree. Everyone else, all the other Masons, basically more or less pretty innocent. Just those people that are handpicked, that are especially powerful, politically and that sort of thing. I've heard of of course, all of the establishment stuff. Newt Gingrich saying that Trump is not part of the establishment, so he's an outsider, and all this stuff, and then I don't even know where to go from it. Well, yeah, the Illuminati in Hollywood, and there's so many other conspiracy. I've heard all this stuff. I mean, if you guys have heard the conspiracy theory, I have probably heard it myself. I believe some of it wholeheartedly. Others I have no reason to disbelieve. And I've seen the Edward Snowden stuff, so that there's some very real spying that's happening on all of us from the government. That's a very real thing, because the more knowledge you have about everybody, the more it's Orwellian, or there has to be checks and balances in the world, and if government will want more and more power all the time, and that's what they're interested in, is more money for themselves, more power for themselves, more control. And if they can't get that money, or they can't get that power, they can't get that control, they think, they try to prosecute people, throw them in jail, throw them in camps. I've heard about the FEMA camps. So again, I just mentioned, some of it I believe, some of all stuff I believe, some of it I have no reason to disbelieve. Some of it I consider a little bit kooky and weird. But regardless of what I believe or don't believe, there's no avoiding the fact that more and more of these supposedly conspiracy theories are becoming very apparently real. And with time, more people will see how these things are in fact real. And whatever conspiracy theories are a little bit off or not quite real, that'll be understood as well. But when you have very wealthy people, and they all are in agreement about certain things worldwide, throughout the world, wherever they are, and they're all helping each other out, and they all want more for themselves and less for everybody else, it is not hard to believe. There is no stretch of the imagination required to believe that. These are not good guys, by and large. Whoever has better character is kind of in the minority. Think of the wealthiest people in the world, and whoever you actually respect, the very wealthiest. Who do you actually personally respect? That should be food for thought. When you have tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions, I don't know, or when you control via your family a heck of a lot of the resources in the world, who's to stop you other than God himself? So basically, essentially awaiting God's judgment. There is no entity in the world, nobody that can stop him. That is the kind of power that these people wield, and the reason why they want more of it is because it's like addictive, like drugs or sex or anything like that sort of stuff. It wreaks havoc on the human soul to have that kind of power and that kind of wealth. It's just unhindered. You hear a lot of stories about you can get wealthy by this or that means. Everybody's talking about making more money, you know, but it's also pretty widely, well, it's also stated by a lot of folks that to make really serious dough, like billions, you pretty much have to be connected to people that have a ton of money already. At least if you want to be part of the 1%, or, the fewer percentage of people that really have a ton of money. I mean, look, there was a video I saw recently where this guy had this pumpkin pie, and he was splitting into different slices, uh, based on, I think it was in the United States, or was it either the United States or worldwide, and you saw how much of the pie these different socioeconomic classes had, from the poorest to the wealthiest. And you guys should probably guess how much, a huge percentage of the world's population, well, even the United States, the poorest and the poor had nothing. The lower middle class had next to nothing. The upper middle class had a smidgen. The wealthy had a fair bit, a little bit, some. They had a slice. And then the very wealthiest had the rest of the cake, the pie. And it was like, what the devil's going on here? And just in terms of numbers, think of all the people we know that are having trouble, having trouble making ends meet. They're all the people that we know that are doing okay, but not spectacular. And then the people that are doing better, but they don't have billions at least, right? Or even hundreds of millions, whatever, tens of millions. But that's almost everybody you know. I mean, how many people do I know that have serious money, right? The wealthiest people I've ever known, personally, mind you, they're only millionaires, maybe tens of millions. I couldn't say hundreds of millions, really. That's the wealthiest people I've ever known, and I grew up upper middle class. I don't know any billionaires personally. I don't. That's such a small chunk of the world's population, of the United States population. It's just, you almost have to know Bill Gates, someone like that, or you almost have to live in, that area of, Mercer Island, and Medina, or whatever, or Bellevue, that area, or you'd have to live in, maybe Connecticut or something, or certain parts of California, coast, Malibu. There's very few spots in the United States where you have a lot of people at least some people that have that kind of money. And none of these people that are that wealthy are especially religious. They're just not. They kind of look at church and a lot of things like that as a waste of time. It's like, oh yeah, that's all nice and good. That's all fine. But, have I got something, a lot of people that are that wealthy wouldn't even give a lot of people the time of day. Really. I mean, I want to believe the best in people, but no. I mean, if, we all have so much time in our lives, and if somebody is choosing between just giving a few bucks to a homeless person, talking to him a little bit, or going to a dinner party that they're serving, sturgeon and crab and eel and Wagyu beef, or Kobe beef, and all kinds of wine, and they're having a nice get together, and A lot of people will just want to go to that party, but a lot of people aren't in the club, so they're not going to be invited to the party, that kind of party, that kind of dinner or whatever. And a lot of people just don't want to talk to homeless people in general because they're stinky and they're homeless and they're. And I've realized that I've kind of gotten away from conspiracy theories here, but it's associated. What I'm talking about more than even than the conspiracy theories themselves is the way that money can corrupt people, and amongst other things that can corrupt people, by the way. And if money can corrupt, why should we believe that all of the very wealthiest people in the world that have a great deal of power, by the way, why should we believe they're not being corrupted by this stuff? Why should we believe that they're not trying to get more for themselves and less for everybody else? It's not a conspiracy theory, folks. It's just human nature, for crying out loud. Anyway, let's just see how long this video lasts. If YouTube never takes it down, maybe YouTube has some redeeming qualities about it. If YouTube takes this down, we all will know why. We all will know why. There's nothing I'm talking about here that is in any way a violation of copyright of anyone. Simply mentioning someone's name and what they've talked about, what they've said, is not a copyright violation. That's ridiculous. We talk about ideas and people all the time. They're just going to single out, again, conservative views or stuff that has to do with conspiracy theories. If I just talked about wanting to be more charitable to the poor, which is what half of this video is about anyway, would YouTube have a problem with that? Probably not. They wouldn't want to get on everybody's bad side that truly cares about people that are poor, not just lip service, but actually wants to help the poor folks and everybody that's downtrodden. They wouldn't want to get on those people's bad side, but yeah, they'll go after the conspiracy theorists because why? You guys know why, right? But yet we'll keep finding out more about this stuff. It'll keep being posted on YouTube. We're going to have people that keep, risking, all kinds of stuff because that kind of knowledge, that kind of truth is enormous in significance. We want justice. We want justice in this life, not just in the next life. We want people to pay for their crimes. We want righteousness, I would think. We don't want to have any tolerance for wickedness. And we need to ourselves be better people. And by that same fervor, a lot of people will never stand for injustice and corruption. And that's what drives people to post videos about the Bohemian Grove and so on and so forth. And Jay-Z and Beyonce and that crazy video in the Super Bowl where her eyes actually changed. She's trying to downplay that, but it's right there. It's right there in film. We all saw it. We all saw the physical change that happened to her. He'll try to deny it. He'll say that's just a camera trick. That was just something that she did to make herself look scarier. Well, she herself is trying to downplay that whole thing. She wasn't exactly happy with how she looked. Yeah. I don't know what plainer sign anybody needs, but the reality of good and evil. It's right there in the Super Bowl where Beyonce was dancing. And then they had the whole rap and hip hop and music industry, the guys that are connected with the Illuminati. It's all there. I'm not saying we need to be obsessed about it. I'm just saying it's good to be aware of it. It is good to be aware of it. If you aren't aware of it, you might be that much more, I don't know if I use the word gullible, but you're going to be unaware of who the tyrants are. You might still think that, ultimately it is Satan that it's our enemy. But Satan will use people in this world for his own means and ends. And I would think that we would want to know who those organizations are, or what they're about, so we can have some kind of awareness of that. If you can't bring them to justice, then at least we can know who they are. We can tell people about it. Try to have something happen in the future. All right, leave me thoughts, comments below. I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.